Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income-producing real estate investments. Our guest for this week's show is entrepreneur and real estate investment expert, Jerome Maldonado. Now, Jerome began his career in direct sales, where he was first introduced to team building, sales techniques, and real estate concepts. Back in 1997, Jerome began to explore business outside the direct sales arena, which led him to be the pioneer of a new construction company, which he took to seven figures in less than 1 year. With much success came the need for expansion. Understanding the simple concepts and benefits of leasing real estate, he purchased multi-use retail and commercial property to house his business. Over the span of his 20-plus year real estate career, Jerome has done over $200 million in transactions, with $52 million in 2021 alone. And so with that, guys, it's my honor to welcome my guest for today's show, Jerome Maldonado. Jerome, how you doing, my friend?
Kevin, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on, man. And I appreciate waking up early to jump on with us. I know you get up early anyway, but guys, he's 2 hours difference right now. We're recording this at 9 a.m. Eastern. So bright and early where he's at, and, and so tell our listeners, just give it a geographical presence as to where we're calling you at today. Where are you based out of, Jerome?
I'm on the base of the Rockies here, just outside of Santa Fe, between Santa Fe and Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay. Good deal. Appreciate that. And, I gave you a brief introduction there. I'm sure I glossed over quite a bit, and there's probably a lot of voids in the bio that I provided. So maybe, 20 years of experience in the real estate game. Take a few minutes, and Jerome, if you would, and kind of fill in the blanks. Tell us a little more about yourself, your background, and also how you found your way into real estate.
So as you mentioned, Kevin, we started in direct sales and network marketing. I was in college doing the traditional route like everybody that were sold that by their parents to go to school, get a good education. And I was in pharmacy school and saw an opportunity to go out and sell water filters. So I hook, line, and sinker, I was sold. And in 1993, I got involved in direct sales and network marketing, selling water filters and vitamins. And to massive success in my first 2 years, I was living on people's couches and finding my way through supermarkets, trying to buy bags of beans and rice just to make a living, right? And so slept on a lot of couches, a lot of floors. And it took me about 2.5 years to really figure out the business, to make any sort of respectful income at all. And that was the go-to on my real estate. On my entrepreneur journey in the beginning, and it was a struggle, but I figured out the business, and thank God I did. I became I was in the top 30 money owners in the entire company, and by 1995, 96, and it was a lot of learning more than anything, and that really set me up for my real estate career, my construction career, which I absolutely knew zero about at the time. And I had no idea I was going to even embark on real estate until 1997. The FTC shut us down. A lot of direct sales and multi-level marketing got shut down in that little sector of time. And they cleaned house, and we were left without an opportunity. Landed up back finishing up my college degree. I didn't know what other direction to take. And ironically enough, I landed up in construction. I didn't know anything about construction, but through my brother-in-law, who was doing drywall and metal stud framing at the time, his boss was put out of business for tax evasion. And so I went with him as kind of a little sidekick to go get my contractor's license, really just to support him and my sister. Mm-hmm. And he didn't show up test day. And since I did, I passed the exam, and lo and behold, I landed up with a contractor's license. Didn't really know what to do with it. And so I put some guys to work. I knew how to sell, knew how to market, felt at that time like I had, Kevin, absolutely nothing to lose in my life and everything to gain. I felt like I kind of hit rock bottom because I had overspent like most 20-year-olds do, and really had nothing to show for my earnings. And I embarked in this construction endeavor, and I went at it, took the bull by two horns, and I went to work. And I was still finishing off my degree, and we did about $1.7 million in gross sales that year. Made a nice little six-figure profit our first year in business, and that opened all kinds of doors. And that's kind of what brings us to where we're at today, from that little start to where we are today. And we do a lot of real estate. We still do a lot of construction, and it's just evolved from that time.
Yeah, well, fantastic. That's a great story, and I too, it's interesting some of the lessons and some of the the sales traits and just communication skills that you learn being in the direct sales business. So back when I was 16, those that are listening, you probably remember Cutco knives as well. They're still around today,
Yeah.
Cutco knives. But back then, I don't think it's legal today, but back then they used to come recruit high school kids. I think you had to be 16 over the summertime to literally go door to door, bang door to door, and sell Cutco knives. And I did that for 2 summers, and very interesting. Definitely helped me grow as a man, as a young man. Just takes some balls, right, to go knock on some random
Yeah.
door and try to pitch them these incredibly expensive knives, right? And but it was a lot of fun, lots of lessons learned there. And so, no, that's great. I appreciate that background. And so I know that I read in your bio the construction company that you built. And maybe I misinterpreted, but it said, it was a unique maybe it was worded as a unique opportunity, or there was a unique concept. What was it that you guys were doing? Were you doing something outside the norm of just, remodels and builds, or what was that construction business?
Yes, it was. So at the time, the New York, and Las Vegas, Nevada had been built. If you go back into the old New York, it had a lot of the faux concrete that you see inside, like the rainforest cafes, all the faux rock and so forth. So I actually took a seminar from a company called L&L Enterprises back then, who had done the contract work on that stonework in New York, and it was in Las Vegas. And so so I flew out there to go take a look at it. There was a guy doing a lot of decorative concrete here locally, and I was encouraged by him to go take that seminar. And from that, we went and evolved into decorative concrete. We were doing a lot of like golf courses where we were doing that, rainforest cafes. And we were doing, there was a restaurant called Margaritas down in Utah that we had done. So we were bidding stuff all over the Southwest, West Coast. And the golf course deal was really our big go-to. It was just a huge win. This stuff was adapted by the golf community when we were redoing holes. And so we landed up getting into like redoing greens and putting greens and a lot of that type of unique installs. And I would bid it at the time on what I would feel was very lucrative. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I just figured, well, if I got enough money in there, I'll figure it out. And so I literally went in just bidding these things with a ton of cash in there. I didn't have any overhead. So what I thought was probably an absorbent amount of money to them, when they was going up against other bids, probably wasn't that much difference. I was probably pretty close to the ballpark, but they were home runs for us at the time. And I'll tell you that little sector of decorative concrete is where we got into it. We acclimated it to a residential standpoint where we could do this into homes. And we still do some of that stuff today, actually. We just don't do it on a big commercial basis.
Well, that's awesome. I love that. And so let's get up to speed to where you're at today. I know you got your hands in many different pots, just like a lot of entrepreneurs do. You're spinning a bunch of plates. I know that you're in the industrial sector of real estate. You've got a construction company still as well. I know we talked briefly before we started interviewing here about a boutique hotel project that you're involved with. And so maybe, again, I'm going to let you kind of take it from here, but get us up to speed as to what your business looks like today.
So we've had a lot of changes in our business model over the years, which economically the world has evolved, right? Things have changed substantially over the last 25 years that we've been doing this. And when we first started, we got into building single family homes, buying a single piece of land and building houses. We still do that today. We scaled it up really big, and then we scaled it back down. And now we probably only do about 5 to 8 homes, and they're spec homes. They're homes that we've designed, we build, we spec them out. And then when they're 100% complete, we sell them. Great little cash flow model. We usually make about 6 figures on every single build. It'll vary from $100,000 to $200,000 in profit per build. So a great little cash flow model that we've had for years. That evolved into retail development, which we did a lot of. We did a lot of value add and new construction, Class A retail, all the way up to 2009. We also did some office, and in 2009 we got stuck in the also great recession that everybody talks about, and we were one of those that barely made it through it. We didn't have to lose any properties. We didn't go bankrupt, but it was a challenging time. We learned a lot at that time, and we pivoted in 2009, and we got into a lot more single family rentals again, fourplexes, and multifamily. That was our first endeavor, at the time that we've endeavored into multifamily. And not knowing that it was going to be such a lucrative asset class, we took down a bunch of fourplex, and really was because of the acquisition price. We were able to pick up fourplexes in Phoenix for like $40,000, $38,000 per fourplex. So
Wow.
4 rentals, $38,000, and we were getting single family homes for like $28,000 to $40,000 for single family rentals that we're leasing. And so some of those single family homes were $28,000 to $40,000, and we were leasing those things for anywhere between $900 to $1,100.
Isn't that amazing compared to where we're at today, right?
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so those same homes today are probably selling for 250,000. We sold them for over 100, all of them. They were between $110,000, $120,000 a piece when we exited the portfolio. And so that evolved into taking that into multifamily real estate, which it took me some time to really study and understand in the industry. And in that time, I had a little bit of experience from 2004 when we bought a hotel, Howard Johnson, that we converted into a Best Western. We had that for 2 years, learned a lot about the hotel restaurant industry at that time, and also multiple doors, multiple unit leasing, which helped me when I got into multifamily real estate in 2009. Then we took that into larger acquisitions in 2016, purchased an 85 unit apartment complex. And then we went and purchased another 75 unit. And I think what's so unique about this is at that time, all the way to 2018, we never raised capital. We never used private money. I only used institutional money in my own capital all the way to that time. So there was no business partners. It was my companies and my LLCs or corporations that were purchasing these assets. So there was a lot of education for me involved in this. I didn't have anybody teaching me or partnering with me to teach me this stuff. Now, 2018, we fast forward. I knew at that time that if I wanted to scale, I had to partner with people, and I was going to have to raise capital, inevitably. So I had to change my mindset, and that's where we've really scaled, Kevin. I mean, in all honesty, I should have done it years prior. I didn't realize how advantageous it would be. In 2016, I just felt stagnant. I knew I was growing. I was just not growing at the rate that I wanted to. I was getting older. My kids are getting older. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to scale this the way people scale this unless I do something different. And so since 2018, we've really blown this up. We're doing a lot of new multifamily development, new construction, Class A. We have over just shy of $100 million on the books for this year alone of new development, multifamily. I still own all my retail. I kept and hung on to all my small stuff that was under 20,000 square feet. We still own 11 buildings and 11 commercial buildings and 1 office building today. And we're still building single family homes. We're still building out single family homes. So we've evolved. And like you said, we have a lot of other stuff. I have industrial warehouse space that I own, a lot of warehouse. And we are embarking into the NFT space, which hence has to do with our boutique hotels, some little asset testing that we're trying to figure out NFTs in. So,
yeah, well, fantastic. It's interesting. You made a comment regarding, back in 17 or 18, at some point you felt a little stagnant, using your own capital and just getting to a point to where wanting to do bigger deals, but just, at some point you run out of your own capital, or maybe you don't run out of your own capital, but there's a point in time where it makes more sense to spread out the risk a little bit and bring in some other partners when you start looking at much larger deals. But, I'm a huge proponent of, it's when you're getting into a new asset class, right? I don't think it makes too much of a difference if you're incredibly experienced as a real estate investor, because someone that is well versed in retail for 10 years and then makes a complete pivot over to multifamily. There's lots of crossover there, right? Like there's tons of crossover, lots of similarities, but there's also a lot of unique nuances that go from one to the other. And so I'm a huge proponent, whether you're brand new or even seasoned, but moving to a different asset class. I'm a huge proponent of kind of risking your own capital, right? Cutting your teeth and improving your new concept, whatever it might be, with your own capital first, before going out and raising capital, bringing capital in from outside sources. Create a little bit of a track record for yourself in this particular asset class, understand the model, again, prove the concept, and and actually have a case study to build upon. It might not be a 300 unit case study, right? Like you might have to do a couple 40 units or 50 units, what have you. Like you talked about a 75 unit before moving on to larger projects, especially, some new construction projects. But again, I know there's no right and wrong answer here. And I've got plenty of guys I know that literally never did that. They got in and they learned the syndication business right out of the gate, and they kind of teamed up with maybe some others that had a little bit more traction already, and ultimately learned the business from the inside out. Never flipped a home, never bought a single family home, never bought a smaller multifamily, and went right into $60-70 million projects, right? And so no right and wrong here, but I do think that there's a benefit of risking your own capital before bringing in others and trying to be a steward of other folks' capitals before you risk your own. So anyway, just want to point that out there. So with that being said, you've got a lot of new projects happening, a lot of new multifamily developments taking place. What markets are you guys mostly focused on? Are you out in the southwestern states? I know you're that's where you're based out of, but where are your projects focused?
So we have a lot of West Coast and Southwest projects.
Okay.
And the need for what we're doing is needed nationwide. So here's just to tell you a little bit about our business model, what we're doing. We're taking multifamily Class A real estate, okay? We're building it new construction. But instead of going against the rents of Class A real estate with all the amenities, swimming pools, clubhouses, little offices, and all the amenities that are fully built out in a brand new Class A apartment complex, we're taking the same concept of building those asset classes out with the same type of construction on the one bedrooms, the 1-1s, 2-2s, and we're building out a brand new modern style looking apartment complex, but we're stripping the amenities out of them. So a lot of times we're not putting in swimming pools. If we put a gym, it's very small. Clubhouses and office areas are very minimal, if any at all. And the landscaping is very simple. And the whole concept behind this is more of an affordable housing concept behind it. Even though in most municipalities, we're not getting tax incentives or tax abatements doing this. In some we are, some municipalities we are. We're able to go in and lease against Class B multifamily assets. And the way I think about it is if there's a market compression, being that 15 years we've had this run, right? Mm-hmm. And so at some point in time, the market has to compress. It's inevitable. We're just sitting at a place where we can continue developing. We can develop and build at a much better square footage price because of the strip out of the amenities. Hence, we're able to lease for a better and more reasonable price. Yet we can still push rents if we want to or need to, but our out-of-pocket expenses are substantially less. And so we're able to lease and give people more affordable housing type workforce housing at a much better price. And with the capabilities of pushing rents in the future and scaling those assets over time. So yeah, we're going into secondary markets with that asset class.
Give me an example of a secondary market, like where you guys have some projects going on now, or maybe where you've already built.
Yeah. So like Tacoma, for sake of example.
Okay, got it.
We get into Seattle. Okay, yep. And Seattle, I mean, we're building single-family developments in Kirtland, where we're selling little 1,500 square foot cottage-style homes for $1.4 million. Nothing affordable about that. You go up to Tacoma, it's an hour away, and we're able to lease these in a really good market. We're going into Phoenix, and instead of building right in Phoenix, we're still in the metro area, but we're going into smaller municipalities, Sun City, Youngtown, Buckeye, a lot of these secondary markets in the Phoenix area. We're also in Tucson, and we're building out these type of apartment buildings in these type of market classes. We're going into like California, Desert Hot Springs, in some of the areas just outside of Palm Springs, and we're doing asset classes like this in those areas. And we're also doing them here locally in Rio Rancho, which is where Intel is. And that it really supports the workforce of Intel, where we're actually building out here. So those are the type of markets that we're primarily focusing on.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've always wondered, with multifamily Class A new developments, it's always seemed over the last decade, it's been like who can build not just bigger but better and better. How do I compete this new Class A that I built against the one that just opened up 2 years ago, like in the same neighborhood? And it seems like the only way that one could compete versus the other, at least um, from what I've kind of gathered, is like more amenities, right? How many more amenities can we offer? Can we make our pool nicer? Can we make our gym bigger? Can we make our clubhouse, more grand? And I've always wondered, and it's been a long time since I've lived in an apartment, but even then, how many folks actually use the amenities? I get it's
Yes.
more for marketing than anything else, but have you guys actually ever done a survey, or have there been surveys done as to what percentage of the typical A-class renter actually utilizes one or all of the amenities in a given complex, right? It's got to be a very small percentage, and I don't know what it is. I mean, the pool's probably the most commonly used, right? But and you start looking like the clubhouse, like who gives a shit? Like I don't know. In my opinion, how many people really go if there's like a cool clubhouse with like a pool table in it, or like a nice lounge area? How many people that or that I know would actually go just hang out in the clubhouse? I mean, very few, right? If anything, we're going to go hang out somewhere. We're going to go hang out like maybe a coffee shop or a bar, or like co-work space, something else. If we want to be social and grab our laptop and go get some work done, we're not going to go hang out at the apartment clubhouse. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just an old guy that doesn't know anything, but that's kind of how I feel. So, have you guys ever done surveys to to truly compare like who really gives a shit about the amenities and who doesn't?
You know what? That's a great standpoint, because that's exactly the way I felt when we started doing these. And I think I've been to one apartment complex that I've ever been to where they actually utilized the amenities, and it was in Salt Lake City, Utah, right downtown in the Tinnery district. And that apartment complex, I had to go down there with the developer. This guy Steve took me down to show off his like masterpiece that was over in the old. He took over part of the old railroad district and built this Class A multifamily apartment complex. One of the only apartment complex I've ever been to where the amenities were really being utilized full-fledged. But it was a lot of young college kids. They had all the fire pits out, so it was almost like sitting up at the top of the W Hotel, someplace where where you went out, they have cocktails and they have the fire pits going, the swimming pools going, and they have music blaring. And it's hopping. It's like a Friday night, Saturday night, it's hopping. One of the only ones. But if you go to any Class A apartment complex built across the United States, in most cities, anywhere, and you go out to the pool on a summer day in the afternoon, you might see 2-3 people out of 350 resident doors on that place, and probably 600 plus residents there. And so less than probably 0.1% of their entire residents is sitting at that swimming pool, right? And again, the clubhouse, same thing. The pool tables are never used. They might lease them out occasionally for a birthday party, but to your point, no one's using them. And that's what we didn't do a survey. I just took note of it.
Yeah.
And I got scared. And I think that, and call me crazy, but I think it's just a lot of that's ego, right? Architects going after architects, developers going after architects. And if this stage in the game, I'll tell you, ego set aside, I want to retire at some point in time in my life. And what retirement is for me is really the ability to pick and choose, right? Whatever the hell I want to do. And if it's work, well, then so be it. I love what I do, but I don't want to be forced to have to wake up in the morning to go do what I want to do, and so I want to be at a place where I can comfortably sit, where I know my asset class is going to bring in returns for me. And that's really what this standpoint is. I went through 2008 hard and aggressive, and I had to get back in there and into the trenches and get my hands dirty, just like it was 1998 starting my construction company all over again. And it felt that way.
I feel you, brother.
So,
I feel you.
So I don't want to have to do that again. And so that's where this comes from. And when I tell people, like, we teach this stuff a little bit, I tell people I didn't build this business model for them. I didn't. I built it for me. It just so happens that we've gotten good enough at it that we can teach them what we've done, and allow a few people to take advantage of it. But in all honesty, I didn't build it for anybody. I didn't go out and say, hey, I'm going to build an educational platform to teach people how to do this. I built this business model for myself, my family, my children, and in lieu of being able to have a better lifestyle and set my kids and myself up for the rest of our lives and their lives. And so, if people want to gravitate and say, hey, Jerome, teach me a little bit of what you know, it's been advantageous for a handful of people, which has been awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and so that brings me to the next question. And what do the given where we're at today, given you've been through 08, 07, 08, 09 era, I was as well challenged, was pushed into a corner with a lot of assets that we had under our ownership, and lots of challenges. I don't want to do that again either, right? And so and I've worked really hard over the past 12 years to rebuild things and to get to where I'm at today. And so with that being said, I've got a young family as well. Really different point in my life today than what I was back then. I didn't have kids then, but it still sucked. It was still a challenging time. I wasn't married then. I'm married. I've got a little bit more responsibilities and got to think of things a little differently. And I don't want to go through it again. And so, we're at a weird time, right? We've had such a long run, a bull run here over the last, depending on when you say that we started recovering, right? I really don't think we truly started seeing any recovery until like 10, but, one could argue back that the recession didn't really last that long. We were starting to come out of it shortly thereafter. It really depended on what part of the country and as to what was going on around here. I was in Florida, which was kind of ground zero. And so it took quite some time before things started turning back around here in Florida. But either way, we can say that we're somewhere between 12 and 14, maybe potentially 15 years into this bull run. Things are getting a little weird right now, a little bit of volatility with rates, not creeping up. I mean, running up incredibly fast. We know there's going to be continual increases over the remainder of the year. Commercial real estate lags behind those changes. There's still a lot of liquidity in the marketplace. So typically cap rates will have adjustments according to where interest rates are going, but there's so much liquidity trying to find a home right now to find a safe place during this inflationary period. And so cap rates really haven't adjusted at all. Still just as much demand for many of the product types that are out there. And so what are you doing in your business, and what type of risk mitigation strategies do you intend to put in place here over the next 12, 24 months, whatever that time frame might look like, to protect what you've worked so hard to build?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of things. I mean, I first saw this coming. I thought this was going to happen 4 years ago,
Me
right?
too.
So
I think I think a lot of people did, right? Exactly. It's
yeah,
like when. It's not if, it's when.
it is. And so we've been setting ourselves up for that. I mean, even our new single family home builds, we've been every one of them has been a race. And that asset class, lo and behold, has thrived immensely. And we've made mass profits on that stuff. And that's why we keep doing it. I don't even want to do them anymore, but we keep doing them because they're so lucrative. The same houses we're making 110 grand on profit, we're making $230,000 on net profit. So we keep doing it. So the asset class that I focus on, I don't get into competing with the mean, the average single family home price between $360,000 and $420,000. We go just over that. And the whole reasoning behind that is because of what I have personally seen over the course of time. People like our moms and dads, our grandparents, those people in times of recessions, they become more conservative, but they're less affected by the actual market compression. And hence, they've been our buyers. The people that have worked a 20, 30-year career, they're maybe at the tail end of it, and they're not really affected by layoffs and so forth. They're seasoned in their place of employment, and so you don't see that asset class just over that over the mean really getting hit. So that asset class had changed. When I first started in this business, the average home was about $180,000, and being over that mean was in the high 300,000s. Now that is the mean. And so now I tell people we build and we start at the $500,000 mark, and we don't surpass that $800,000 mark unless we're in a market like Seattle, which we do build out there, where the median home is like $800,000, and we stay just over that at like 1.3, 1.4 million. So we hit that average home price just over to hit the more affluent and more stable buyer. A lot of empty nesters. Because if the market compresses, we have so much profitability that, like right now, we're making $200,000. If the market compresses and we only make $40,000 or $50,000, who cares? Because I'm still making a profit, right? Like I can get out of the house and give somebody $150,000 discount, and I can walk. And so my whole point being is that if I have to, if the market compresses by 20% and I make $50,000, is there anybody weeping on my account?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
You know. And so so that's what we're doing. That's one thing that we're doing, and it's been very successful. When the recession hit, we were selling those homes I was making $110,000 profit on, and I was making $40,000 in profit. And yes, it hurt, but
You mean back in
crying.
08, 07, 08
Yeah.
when that recession hit? Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
And it was accidental at that time. I didn't set that up like that on purpose. You know, we just that saved us. That capital, as we finally were selling them, and we were resistant to it because we felt like our time was worth more. We were slowly lowering prices $5,000 at a time, being stubborn, like we all so pridefully are, right?
Yeah.
We go into this denial phase that, oh, I'm not getting affected. This isn't happening to me. And it's happening to you. And so we should have just cut our losses quicker and got out of it. And we'd have probably cleaned up and gotten through it a lot quicker, but we were stubborn, just like I know people are going to be now. And so we started doing these multifamily builds the way we're doing them. And I feel, you know, right now we've been underwriting deals. I knew interest rates were going to go up, Kevin. I knew they were going to go up. So people, like I have one business partner, he said, no, we need to underwrite this at a 4% cap rate. I said, no way. There's no way I'm going to do that. Interest rates are rising. Let's underwrite this at 5.5% cap rate, because cap rates have to go up exponentially along the side of interest rates. You can't be buying assets with lower cap rates than you're getting in interest rates from the bank. So the cap rates have to go up. So we've been underwriting deals with higher cap rates, and I've been underwriting rents and on asset classes that we're building, like our multifamily, with 10% rent compression. So I take our current market rents and I deduct 10% off of the current market value rents, and I take a higher cap rate. And if the projects still pencil at a price that I feel comfortable with and a profitability that I feel comfortable with, doing it, underwriting it differently on both ends, conservatively, then I do them. And the best case scenario is that interest rates stay where they're at, or they creep up lower than what I'm underwriting, along with cap rates, and rents don't get compressed, then we're even better off. But at worst case scenario, rents get compressed, which potentially they can, and interest rates continue to rise, we're still okay.
You know, it's interesting. I was laughing when you were making a comment about just being stubborn and, you know, back during the recession, selling homes off, maybe dropping 5K on the price, and, you know, things weren't moving, dropping another 5K and being slow about doing it. And I owned over 120 rentals back in, you know, leading into 08 and down here in Florida, and had really low LTVs on my portfolio as far as the debt was concerned. And when things started kind of, you know, taking a turn for the worse, you know, we started unloading chunks of it. And, you know, we're like, you know, giving 10% discounts to the market, thinking they'd fly off the shelves. They didn't. Another 5%, you know, taking a month or two to make that decision. And before we knew it, you know, like shit was just hitting the fan. I mean, like it literally unraveled so fast that we couldn't unload them quick enough. Even once we started getting a little bit more aggressive, it happened so quick. And then no one was buying. Everyone just kind of pulled back. I'm not buying anything at this point in time, you know, and the market just came to a complete halt. And so I laugh because I remember that time vividly. It was very, very, very stressful for sure. But no, that's I appreciate, you know, just your feedback, your perspective on what you guys are doing in your business to, again, I think it's not even, it's prepare for the inevitable. You know, we don't know exactly, every recession is different than the next. And, you know, we still are massively lacking housing, both rental units and owner occupant units throughout the entirety of the US. So, however, with that being said, you mentioned, you know, how you guys you're underwriting, you know, the rents with a, you know, 10% reduction, whatever the market is. And, you know, and I think we're far away from rents being impacted. I shouldn't say that. That's kind of I'm painting a broad brush stroke here, but there's certain markets that are going to get to a oversupply faster than others, right? And that's typically what occurs. The entire U.S. doesn't all of a sudden have an oversupply of rental housing available, but certain markets ultimately will get there first. And, you know, it's interesting looking back and talking to investors, and more importantly, investors that weren't investing prior to 08, right? That like got in post Great Recession. most, don't understand that rents historically, there's been a point in time where rents actually went down, right? You got an oversupply. I remember for many years down here in Florida, you had to give concessions in order to get people into your unit, flat screen TVs, 3 months free rent. I mean, whatever it might be, but you had to make concessions in order to be competitive in the marketplace, even if you had the best product. It didn't make a difference
Yeah.
if you had an A class. You still had to make sure that you were doing something above and beyond what the competition was, because there was more supply than there were demand from renters. And so anyway, I hope
Yes.
we don't get there again, but again, history tends to repeat itself at some point. I don't think it's like right around the corner at all, because we're so short on supply at present time. But no,
Yep.
but I appreciate you sharing that with us. And one last question. I know that we're both on time constraints here, and you've got to run. I've got to run here in a few minutes. But one last question I always like to ask our guests. And you've been in the business 20 plus years. You've been involved in just a litany of transactions, many different types of transactions. Again, you got your development business. You got your hands in many other types of investment real estate. No deal is similar to the next. Every deal is unique in and of itself. Some deals are hairier than others, and then there's always that one or two or three deals that come out. You've been doing it long enough. There's probably more than one. I know I've got more than one, but the one deal that it was the most stressful, the most challenging, had the most road bumps. Maybe you made it to the closing, maybe it didn't, but ultimately that it's one that, if you could say it gave you nightmares, it gave you nightmares, right? Just created the most stress in your life. When I say all those key words, what deal comes to mind? Tell us a little bit about it, the challenges associated with it, and then, ultimately, what was the outcome?
Sure. So I built a brand new Class A retail center that I was finishing in October, November of 2008. At the exact same time, I had an $8 million office condo complex where we were doing 38 units of office condos that we were building out. Bank of Oklahoma comes to us $300,000 short of finishing the funding of that project, and just halts our financing in October of 2008. Now, this was the light switch that turned on that said shit's happening, right? Like something's going on bigger than me. And the warning signs were on the wall, but we were ignoring them. And in that time, we were trying to fund our residential developments, which we would typically and traditionally build out cash, which takes a lot of capital. Our construction company, about November of 2008, the phones just stopped ringing, like literally stopped ringing. No marketing in the world was making our phones ring. There was nothing that was making our phones ring. So this project, this retail center, I'm sitting back, and I had to fund $300,000 to finish it out of pocket. That was my cost. Their cost was still about $600,000, but I needed 300, and I had it, thank God. And so I finished the retail center, but it was liquid. I was servicing debt on payments on all this stuff, and I called it trash can money at the time, because it was money that was just interest payments that was going in the trash can back to the banks, right? And it was going out in six figures a month on between everything we had going on. So imagine, most people struggle just to make six figures in a year. I was servicing over six figures in debt on a monthly basis. And Kevin, this was what we call and teach people is good debt, right? It's debt that's supposed to work for us. I was debt free. My house was paid, not paid for, but I had like a $1,500 a month house payment. I lived in the same house for 18 years. I wasn't over leveraged, didn't have car payments, but I had six figures in debt. That building stressed me out beyond belief. I lost every tenant in there, had zero tenants by the time we finished it. And then I rent to the Obama campaign, because that's when Obama was going in. They took like a 6-month lease just to run the Obama campaign. I was trying to pull pieces together where I could. I became an Aveda certified stylist salon or whatever it was, and we put a salon in there. I opened up a brand new beauty salon in there because I needed life in the building. I needed to lease it. So I figured, let me open up a beauty salon. And so being an entrepreneur, I did what it took. And then I went out and I started looking at franchises. I became a Subway franchisee in 2010. And we started putting Subways in our empty buildings. And then we got some life to this thing. So 2 years of this, and we finally started getting some life. We got a little accounting firm, a little State Farm agency, a little Zumba place. And slowly over the course of 2 years, we leased this thing. I'm nursing tenants. They're struggling too. Everybody's going through it. They're paying late rents. I'm working with them, financing partial payments of rent just to get everybody through this hump, including myself. And there's a lot more going on than just this one building, but it's this one building, right? That's like this little thorn in my rib. And finally, about 2012, 4 years later, I finally have it filled. I nurse the tenants there, and I sell the building to the guy that owns the farmer's agency. And we do all the estoppels. For those people that don't know what estoppels are, they're the lease verifications of what people are paying in rent and what they've been paying in rent. And it's their verification that that's what they're paying in rent. So we get our estoppels. We offer our assistants to explain, like, hey, we've been working with these people, right? Like, this isn't like just something that, yes, they're paying rent, but at an expense of my time nursing this building, right? So we sell the building off to this guy who's never owned real estate in his life, huge ego, and just a real prick, in all honesty. I offered to sit down with him and try to teach him and help him. And he's like, no, I'm a badass. I'm a business guy. I got this figured out. Well, he comes in the building, stiff arms a ton of tenants that we've been working with. I mean, it took us time to lease this thing.
Yeah.
And he starts losing tenants. I land up getting sued. And so we line up in a 2-year lawsuit over $250,000.
Jesus.
We sell the property at our break even, which I was the GC, I was the developer, I was the owner, and I was the general contractor. So my cost in was like a $500,000 discount to them at that time, which was a big number, right? At the very least, $500,000, probably more. But we sold it to him at a discounted price, and we still got sued. And then I spent another $250,000 fighting the lawsuit that we later won. But is it really winning? I mean, at what expense, right? And we took the guy, we bloodied him up. It was a bloodbath, is what it was. No one won. Everybody lost. Nobody wins. Just stupid lawsuit. So lo and behold, the day that lawsuit was over, the building was gone. It was the best day of my life. I just, that was the one property that I got to say was probably the biggest thorn in my rib in my entire career.
That's one that builds character, my friend.
Yes, sir. Sure damn does.
Yeah, but no, you know what? That just shows me that, you're an individual. Your character is one that when you get pushed into the corner, you figure it out. FIO, man, figure that shit out. Figure it out no matter what it takes to figure it out, right? Like opening up Subway franchises, opening up a beauty salon. I mean, like, come on. I mean, like many folks, just kind of, they throw in the towel, they fold pretty easily under that type of pressure. And that was just the beginning of it, right? It sounded like it got a lot bloodier as time went on, but kudos to you, man, for working through that. And, you know what? I don't think, it does to me, like, that's not a loss. At the end of the day, when you say, hey, I sold it for I guess you basically broke even, had a slight loss on it once you factored in like legal costs and all that. But that, the value of your time, I would say that that's not a loss, because now you're freed up to take your time and go multiply, those efforts in other endeavors that are going to make you money. So you can look at it from, glass half full, glass half empty. But I would say that was a good pivotal moment in your life to lose some money or, gain your time back, whatever way you want to look at it. So with that being said, my friend, Jerome, it's been a lot of fun having you, my buddy. It's, good hearing your story. Appreciate you, just being vulnerable and opening up with us and sharing the good, bad, and the ugly, right? Because if, right now you look on social media, everyone's making money, right? In real estate, but very few people have actually yet gone through these types of challenges that you and I have both faced. And it's tough, man. It's not all glory all the time where you're cashing big fat checks and just, rising tide lifts all boats, right? If you actually haven't made money over the past 10 years in real estate, then you should probably find another line of business, right? Because it's been fairly easy to make money in real estate. The same happened in the run-up of 04, 05, 06, 07. If you were actually losing money, then you just need to find a new line of work, right? And so really the test comes when, again, as we start rolling into another recessionary period. If that's what's happening right now, I don't know. This is when the real test comes and the men get separated from the boys. So wishing you the best, my friend. It's been a lot of fun having you. Have fun in Miami. Go get some business done. And I'll look forward to catching up with you another time. We'll have you back in the show and get an update maybe from you, sometime beginning of next year. Okay?
Sounds good. Really appreciate you having me, by the way, too. Thank you so much for introducing me to your audience.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, you take care. And guys, that's all we have for this week's show. So until we meet again next week, this is your host, Kevin Buff, wishing you huge success. Take care.